Because I think that's more provocative question there is just to prove that it's not the world. They claiming that they are on the right path, that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that what he wants to hear, he wants to know what our Sheykh is saying regarding that, since we talk about the history. So
yes. BismillahirRahmanirRahim. Like I said before, if you're not understanding history from the eyes of the Ahlul Haq, the people of truth, then you are just going to understand history from people who say they represent truth, but they don't. On the one hand, we must learn our history to learn from it, to take lesson from our history. And the history of Islam, although it's 1,400, 300 years, it's filled with millions of things, but still you do not find Muslims being stuck in history, do you? For example, Genghis Khan, his descendants, the Mongols, they came and they destroyed Baghdad, correct? They killed thousands of people, they chop off their heads and they make hills, mountains of them, isn't it? Do you still see Muslims getting hung up on this? That we talk about this saying, oh, you see those Mongols, they are like this, we hate them. We have a history of fighting against the Christians, the Crusades. We don't fight them, they came to our land to fight us. Yet, how many times you hear imams or sheikhs or books or sohbats or talks that we say, these Christians, they're all like these crusaders coming in to destroy everything. We are not hung up on that. So we look at history and we take from the history the lesson there. We don't judge it, we take lesson. We look, the difference is now, for example, we talk about history of the battle of what? Uhud, correct? 50 archers were stationed, only 10 remained, the 40, they went down. What it means if we are stuck or you're hung up about that history. Those who are hung up are going to say, look at those 40. Because of them, Prophet did this and he was in this situation, they almost lost. They are very bad people. They disobeyed. They're not even Muslims. There are those who are judging that history according to that. They are hung up on that. Then there are those who are studying history according to the eyes of the prophets and the friends of Allah, people of Ahlul Haq, and they look at history and they take a step back and they look at themselves to say, first, there's a lesson for us. Don't judge that. If we are in that situation, definitely worse we're going to do. But what is that teaching us now? So that we don't stand to judge. We judge ourselves and we take lesson from that. Now what about those ones who are learning history through the eyes of people who are not in the way of Siratul Mustaqim? And their history is now not looking at that lesson, stepping back, but being as if they are inside that history, getting very emotional and getting very invested in that they cannot take a step back to understand. How do you deal with that situation now? If you cannot step back, you will never learn. Yes. There are certain things that happen, and you have to have the proper teachers to teach you about this. Otherwise, people who are really asking questions like this, they are not here to learn. They have a set thing, an opinion, and they just want to prove you wrong. So we don't want to play that game. Because you say, you have your history according to you. We have our history also. You think you are right. We think we are right. Do you want to discuss? We can come up and we can look properly. But if you are now going to fight and debate, there is no argument there. We refuse to argue. He can listen to you and say, okay, that's interesting. That's not what we believe. You can listen to us if you want to and say, well, that's interesting. That's not what we believe. And leave it at that. Because there is life to continue. There is a civilization to continue. There is work to continue. Why are you getting hung up on that? In which so much of that kind of history now has been so poisoned. It has been so manipulated. It is so filled with emotions. And when that history, especially with certain people, those kinds of historical incidences, they are brought forward, it is never to look at it properly, rationally, coolly. It is always to whip up your emotion until you become very emotional and you lose your head and you start crying and screaming and hitting and cutting yourself over it. How are you going to sit down with someone who is so invested with a history like that with us now? How are you going to? It's impossible. It's like if, for instance, we're remembering the history of the Crusaders. Always we're going to talk about the Crusaders and talk about what wrong they did and how they destroyed so many people, and we make show about it, like a play about it, people dressing up like this. And we make sure that our young ones also hate them, and we become so passionate about all these kinds of things. Do you think that time when we're filled with that kind of understanding, we can come down and sit with someone to say, look, so these are the facts. You think you're ever going to be able to separate yourself? Impossible. But there are facts. There are facts concerning that. Hazreti Fatima. There are facts concerning Hazreti Ali. There are facts concerning Hazreti Aisha. There are facts concerning Hazreti Muawiyah, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, all of them. But now, if you are stuck in that and you're not taking lesson from that, that means you're stuck. Then no good is going to come out from it. Then it's just a contest. You are wrong, I'm right. I'm right and you are wrong. What are you going to learn from that? What are you going to teach with that? And may Allah take us out from this confusion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This much is enough. Say.
BismillahirRahmanirRahim. What was the hikmet of sending so many different prophets and holy books to the nations from beginning of time, and towards the end, why no more prophets are sent?
BismillahirRahmanirRahim. What is the wisdom of